Hello, Helena. I'm back and I am so blessed. We've got Joseph Daly with us, and I really appreciate Joseph coming on. So take it, Joseph.
All right, Jana May, thank you so much. If you've missed out, we just wrapped up a video and entire interview session with all of the candidates for Helena City Council. And if you missed that out, you can go back and watch it on our pages, just a few posts before this. But tonight, right now, we want you to get the opportunity to get to know your Helena mayoral candidates. And I'm so excited to introduce to you the two candidates. Guys, come on the screen. We've got Brian Puckett and Scott Summerlin, both running for Helena, the mayor of Helena. And we're so excited to have both of them tonight. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you so much, Joseph and Jana, for having me.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Well, super. Well, Jana, I want to make sure we've got the timeline right. What we're going to do is give you both a quick opportunity to introduce both of yourselves. And then after we wrap that up, we'll go into some questions that have been submitted. If you're watching as a constituent, you have the opportunity to submit questions. Feel free to do that in the comments below the live video, or you can even submit them to through a message to you, Jana, right? So we're watching that. So keep an eye out, ask us questions. We want to be able to answer the questions that you have. We've got a few already lined up. And let's go ahead and give you guys an opportunity to introduce yourself to Helena, or to those that are watching tonight. And we'll start with Brian Puckett. Jana, how long does Brian have?
I'll go down through the rules quickly. You have 2 minutes. 2 minutes to introduce yourselves, and Joseph will ask you a question, and you'll have 5 minutes to respond to those questions. When you've got 30 seconds left, I added this on the fly. You'll get that notice. Then you'll get a yellow card at 10, and then another one at 5. Red card, stop.
It's time to go, right?
It's time to go. If there's any interruptions, the first interruption, you get an okay. After that, you start losing 5 seconds off your responses.
So basically play nice, right?
Then there are the rules.
Yeah.
Do y'all have any questions?
Let's get this thing going.
All right, Brian, why don't you kick us off? You've got 2 minutes. Tell us about yourself.
Alrighty, so I am Brian Puckett. I am graciously asking everyone for their vote coming up on August 25th for me to be the next mayor of Helena. So you're thinking, well, why vote this guy? So let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I've been in Helena for about 15 years now. I've got 5 kids that range from 11 to 6 years old. So I am in midst with the notion that schools are important. So I am currently a sitting city council member for Helena. I sit on place 2, and I'm not going to be seeking re-election for that place because I am running for this role of mayor. So I currently work at one of the nation's largest banks in a leadership role over the e-signature program. So I bring a lot of corporate knowledge and background to this position, which ultimately at the end of the day, with all of the residents interviewing us each and every day to cast their vote, they need to know that they got to have someone who is there that knows that business sense. So I love volunteering in our community, whether it's being on the secretary or treasurer for PTO, all the way up to the Helena Rec Soccer Board, and then the beautification board. So really, I like to give back to the community where it's actually being involved in the community. Again, I am Brian Puckett, and I cut out 30 seconds and I'm giving back to you, Joseph Daly.
All right. Thank you, Brian, so much for that introduction. Scott, 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Well, my name is Scott Summerlin. I've lived in Helena for 20 years. I've been married to my wife for 28 years. We have 2 daughters. I have 1 grandson. Retired last November. I served 25 years as a police officer, first for the city of Midfield, and then for the city of Vestavia Hills for 20 years. The last 7 years I worked there, I was a school resource officer at elementary school. And my last year, I was at the high school. I just love the community of Helena, and asking for an opportunity to serve this community in this role. And I would appreciate everyone's vote on August 25th.
All right. Thank you so much, Scott. Let's get into the questions. I feel like we need a bum, 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 something like that. Hey, so the first question I have for both of you, and I guess the way we'll do this is just like we did city council. If you want to answer first, just throw that hand up for me so I can see it on your screen. The first question is, what are the 3 most important personality traits for a mayor? All right, Brian, go ahead.
Okay, so a mayor is really that person who needs to have a lot of energy, because that mayor promotes your town. They're the ones that are going out there and really telling the citizens and visitors how great Helena is. So you got to have enthusiasm. You've got to have the knowledge, and then you got to have the expertise within the government to know how to play by the rules, because you can forget paperwork and that becomes then a felony for you or another lawsuit for the city. So you've got to make sure that you got the knowledge of how the city government works of Helena. You got to have that enthusiasm, and then you just got to really drive hard, because ultimately in the day, without drive, nobody's going to get anything done.
All righty, Brian, thank you. Top 3 personality traits for a mayor. What you think, Scott?
Well, I think you have to have someone that's level-headed, someone that's a logical thinker and not jump into things, rationally. You have to have someone that's willing to work with the council and the community and include all them in any kind of decision-making process that goes forth. And also, somebody just to be a calming influence on the community in times of need, times of trouble, and be that person that's the cheerleader for the community when that's necessary also.
I love that. Thank you, Scott. All right, here's another question for you both. Name one goal you will start and achieve by the end of your term, and how do you plan to pay for it?
Scott, do you want to go first?
Sure. I would like to do some renovation work on a lot of our city parks. I think Joe Tucker Park could be like a really incredible place for the community to gather, to bring their kids to play, and the parents could come together, socialize. That would be a huge thing in my opinion. Just a little improvement there, because it could be just an awesome place for everybody to go. You pay for it. You pay for it as you can. As the budget allows, you can do things incrementally. It doesn't have to be all done at once.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Brian?
So I got to only do one, right? Just one?
I mean, you got 5 minutes. Let's start with your big goal. How's that?
Okay, so the biggest thing that is we've got to look at a library that is a new library facility that could really bring in technology and be able to really foster that community feel that we know and love in Helena. Then you've got the schools. We know that we're overcrowded with them, but a lot of times people will say, well, that's a Shelby County school. So in my first term, really what I want to do is to make sure that we're partnering extremely well with the Shelby County Board of Education. It comes down to, we don't have to solely rely on them to give us new buildings that we're busting at the seams for. We've got to step up and be creative with the way that we help them fund those new buildings, because ultimately at the end of the day, we've got to be a great partner for them. So it could be that we have money set aside in the 1 cent fund. And so that's strictly for the schools. Well, why not use some of that 1 cent fund that is sitting there right now and go to the Shelby County Board of Education and say, hey, we've got a little bit of extra seed money for you. Let's go ahead and get that started. So that's one of the biggest things that are the 2 biggest things that I want to see happen in this first 4 years.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian. All right. So by Alabama code, Helena is designed to be a strong city council and a weak mayor form of government. So what do you think your role is going to be like with the city council?
So I will start off with that, because I have a strong relationship with all the current city council members, but then also have relationships with all the others that are running as well. So it doesn't matter who sits in that office, but as a mayor, you have to partner day in and day out with them. It is not my job and role as a mayor to go out and make the rules. My job is to make sure that what they decide to do in city council, I'm able to implement and see forth on a day-to-day operational side. So really for the mayor, that partnership has to be strong, because obviously as a mayor, you want your voice to be heard, just like all the other residents of this community to the city council. But it's my job to make sure that I back those city council members in the decisions that they make, because there's going to be things that I don't like that they may want to go forward and push through. Well, I've got to work with them and understand where they're coming from so that I can take that message to the greater good of the community.
All right, thank you, Brian. Scott.
Yeah, it's all about having a good relationship with the city council and the community, and it's about all working together. One person can't make all the decisions, and one person can't have all the best ideas. So you take everybody's ideas, work them in together, and implement it to be the best thing for the city.
I love that. Thank you, Scott. So Mayor Hall, he started several road projects, including the widening of 261. We talked him through a bypass, several intersection enhancements like 52 West and Helena Elementary School. Are there any other road projects that you might start?
Yeah, I would love to see Highway 52 4-laned all the way to meet where they're 4-laning it from 459 back to South Shadecrest. But then again, you got to work with the county and the state to get those funding dollars. So a good working relationship with them would help that come to fruition. And maybe we could look at trying to get some traffic lights in at intersections that could be a little more dangerous, such as Highway 13, Highway 93.
All right, Brian.
So yeah, Scott hit the points. We know that there are only just a couple ways in and out of Helena. So it's really how can we leverage our partnerships with Shelby County and LDOT in order to increase the speed on getting those developed. Because you mentioned during the question portion, Joseph, that we've got the 261 that is going to be 4-laned. Well, okay, we've got to really start focusing on the 52 aspect so that we can have 2 different major arteries going out of Helena, whether it be 52 and 261. So we've really got to look at 4-laning those, but we've got to make sure that we're making it easy for people to commute around town as well. So a lot of times people talk about, well, I'm stuck in traffic going to work or coming home from work. And those are people that are actually going out of Helena. So we really need to focus also not only on the people going in and out of Helena, but we also need to focus on the people that are just driving about town. So we've got to make sure that we are creative with our engineering partners to look for opportunities in order to increase and enhance the traffic flows around town. So you mentioned the elementary school turn lane, but then you've also got where me as a city council member passed not too long ago, the construction for the extended and new turn lane at 26152 or 26117 with the new developments going. So we have to look for smaller things like that to be able to enhance the traffic flow around town. So because it's not always just about getting it in and out of town. We've got to make it convenient in town as well.
All right, thank you for that, Brian. Everyone says they're in favor of a smart growth plan, but Helena was actually listed as one of the worst commutes by the U.S. Census, from what I've been told. And define what you think. What do you guys think smart growth should look like in the city of Helena?
So I guess okay, go ahead, Scott. Absolutely.
Go ahead, Scott.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, I think, Helena is in a city that is in demand for home buyers and people wanting to move to this community and raise their kids. That's why we moved here, when my kids were little. And I think we've got to take a look at trying to put a few more restrictions on new residential sections, maybe like lot size, so you just can't put 5,000 houses on 4 square acres. Give people a little more space. Keep the try to keep as much traffic off the roads, obviously, as we can. But keeping Helena in demand is one of my things, is if we continue to build and build and build residential sections and stuff, eventually we may outbuild that demand, and that will drive people's property values down. And so I'm interested in trying to slow that down just a hair, keeping people's property values up.
All right, Brian.
Okay, so smart growth is one of those buzzwords that everybody loves. It's kind of like when we were talking as a city about the Highway 13 development in the past few months. Everybody had the buzzword of comprehensive plan, and I think they all really truly tie in together. So what we have to realize, and what the residents need to make sure and us as city leaders educate the residents on, is the mayor doesn't have the control over how the planning and zoning does. That's that separation of powers. So to say that you can do this or you're going to do that is all fine and dandy, but when the rubber hits the road, the mayor doesn't have that control. Now, I can make recommendations to the planning and zoning about what they can and can't have developers do, but ultimately it's up to that separation of power in that planning and zoning committee to actually be able to do it. But you're talking about things that me as a mayor could do, and it would be working with the city council to get a new comprehensive plan going. So you hear the comprehensive plan get thrown around a lot, and it's on the city's website. It's about 55 pages of fun information and maps, but it was done in 2003. What, how, and how has Helena changed since 2003? And this is the document that we're supposed to be, as leaders of this city, following this plan. So the first thing is we need to make sure that we engage with experts in regional planning and development to be able to do a new comprehensive plan so that our city can now have a roadmap for success for not only 2003, but looking forward in 2020 and 2030 and 2040. So we've got to make sure that we have that plan in place. But then it's my job and responsibility to make sure that us as a city is following that plan, because a plan is about as good as a piece of paper that it's written on. So we got to make sure that we actually execute that plan. So it's good to have the plan and get the plan is that first step, but then that second step is making sure we execute on it. And what we really need to focus on with that comprehensive plan is not only just looking at the boundaries of Helena and the city, what's in the city limits and future of the city, or as far as zonings, so forth like that the comprehensive plan typically looks at, but we need to look at expanded areas. The reason why is I go back to the Highway 13 Valley Land and Timber project that was recently on the books. Well, last April, that wasn't in the city of Helena. So it wasn't a part of the comprehensive plan because no one had the forethought to be able to say, okay, well, let's go 2 or 5 square miles outside of the city in order to have a plan in place. So that way, if something does get annexed in like this land did, we already have a plan ready to be executed on. So we talk about smart growth, and we never want to stop growing as a city. I mean, anybody that knows how the economy would truly works is that in order to get things to come to Helena, we've got to make sure that we're continuing to expand. But we have to do that in the right ways. We have to do that in educated ways. So putting a stop on building or pumping the brakes on building is fine and dandy in theory, but what are you doing in the meantime of putting a slowdown on development? I know that was mentioned just a moment ago. Well, if there's no plan that's being attacked or created when you're doing that slowdown, once you come out of that slowdown, what are you then going to work with? But then on top of that, what type of message are you giving commercial developments, commercial people that are wanting to come in, as well as residential people that are wanting to come in as well? Well, they're stopping their growth or they're slowing down their growth. No, we need to be educated with it. We need to be smart with it. We also need to look at past of where we are today, because where we are today as a Helena resident is not how we're going to be in 2 years or 5 years. Our geographical makeup is going to be changing. The landscape of what is in Helena is going to be changing. So yes, we have a lot of residential now, but you can see with the developments that we are starting to see come on the books and discussions of future developments is we're starting to see more commercialized items coming in, because we want to be able to give our residents that ability to not have to go to Hoover or Pelham or Alabaster to do their shopping. We need to have those luxuries here in Helena. Not only does it help the residents, but it also helps the city, because when you look at our budget, most of our tax revenue is coming from property taxes right now, and we know where that lands us. So we got to be not putting all of our eggs in one basket and being able to look to diversify commercial.
All right, Brian, thank you. Scott, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I just am of the opinion that the reason that we moved to Helena and the reason that a lot of people move to Helena now is because it does have that small town feel. It has that small community kind of feel. And I think that's why a lot of people come here. I'm all for, businesses and all, but I just like the way Helena feels when you get here. You're home, and it's the pain in the neck sometimes to get here, but once you do get here, it's worth it. And I do love the community feel of this city.
We hear that more and more. Jana May and I both do in real estate. I mean, just hearing people say we love that. But things are changing and growing. And, speaking of just change and growth, this year, honestly, has been a year for everyone of change and growth. I mean, from having to wear a mask to go to the grocery store to new discussions around equality and really equity is the word we're using, of just fairness all across the board. I think it's great. One of the questions we have submitted is, tell us about a time when you had to change a deeply held belief because you were wrong. And I'll give you a second to think about that for sure.
I mean, I'll go in and start off. I'm wrong every day. I'm the first.
Me too.
and I say that humbly, because I know that I can't have the ego. As a leader in the corporate world that I'm in today, is I can't always be right. If I'm always thinking that I'm right, more times than not, I'm setting myself and others up for failure. And so I've got to know that I'm wrong every single day about something. It could be small or it could be big. And that's one of the things that I really pride myself on, is I surround myself with experts in different areas. Because number one, I've checked my ego at the door. But number two, with having these experts, they're able to guide me so I don't have to make mistakes. But if I do make a mistake, it's what am I going to learn from it? It's how am I going to be able to adjust, adapt, and then maintain success down the road.
All right, Brian, thank you. Scott?
Yeah, I think we're always constantly evolving and adapting our thinking to different ways by just meeting new people, getting different life experiences. You may have a perception of something, and then once you experience it, you go, wow, that was totally different than I thought. And it's great. So I think we're always evolving and realizing that there are better ways of thinking and better ways of doing things. And that's just part of life. You live and learn, as they say, and with age, you get more perspective on things, and realize that there are more things out there than you thought were there to experience.
All right. Thank you. We've got lots of stuff that you've sent me over, Jana May. We're going to go through some of those. A question to both candidates. What will you do to help us build the Helena Miracle League? I think that's such a special and unique organization we have here in town. What do you see in the future to help them grow and build?
Well, I think we could definitely do some fundraising and get some volunteer work for something like that. That's such a good cause. It makes such a difference in people's lives. And I know the people in this city would be willing to come together and help do that through fundraising and volunteer work. So I would definitely be all for that. That would be a great thing for the city.
I love that, Brian.
So Miracle League. So Mary Chambliss, who started this Miracle League a few years back, has put her heart and soul into creating this league and this environment for all of the people that participate in it. And I can remember sitting in the press box of that first game that they had at Little Joe Tucker Park about a year ago, and I was doing the announcing for them, and to see the smiles on those people's faces as they were able to hit that ball and run around the bases. And so I think as a city and as a leader of the city, we have to step up to the challenge. We allow, or the city allows them to use the Little Joe Tucker Park for their current field. But okay, how can we even go further? What can we do as a city to get them the turf that they need on that field, to be able to enhance and work with Shelby County to be able to put accessible bathrooms there? So it's more than just the field. It's how do we make that whole area over at Little Joe Tucker Park inclusive for them. So I think as a city that we've got to strongly partner with Shelby County in order to bring those amenities in for the Miracle League.
All right, thank you, Brian. So another question is, with the new entertainment district agenda that just passed, do you see any issues for Old Town Helena?
I mean, I'll go with this one first because I raised my hand and voted yes on that roll call yesterday at the city council meeting. So I'm personally for this. Do I think that there's issues? Yes, there's issues with anything and everything that we do. But how, as a city, do we manage potential risk that we could fall into? Do I want to see enhancements around the entertainment district and the safety around there? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. That's why I proposed this past year to have the lit up crosswalks that are the push button, because I want people to be able to see people walking across the street at night down there. So safety has got to be one of the first concerns in the Old Town Entertainment District. But what that does in turn is allows us to be able to promote even more of family-friendly culture down in Old Town.
All right, thank you, Brian. Scott?
Yeah, the entertainment district, I would definitely like to see a lot more lighting down there. People are going to be moving around the sidewalks in the area at night. And I just want to, we need to make sure that the people that live in and around that area are talked to and consulted with and hear their concerns and see if we can alleviate those concerns for them and do what we can so that it has as little impact on their residential life as possible. And, just the safety issues, like Brian said, with people moving around down there, we definitely need to make it as safe as we can.
All right, thank you for that. So the city's got a multi-million-dollar budget, right? What experience do you have managing a budget of this size in terms of dollars and even the amount of staff that it represents?
Scott, you want to take that one, or you may go?
No, I'm good. When I was working with Vestavia Hills, we were all involved in, our budget, which, is not as big as a city budget, obviously. But we had to make concessions, and we had to come up with things that we needed and couldn't do without, and things we were willing to let go, before we submitted it in. So yeah, my experience in multi-million-dollar budgets is not the greatest, but I do have a little bit of experience working within the city budget, being, employed by a municipality for 25 years.
All right, thank you, Scott.
So with the budget that is roughly $14 million for the city. So as a city council member, number one, I'm the one that is currently responsible for getting and creating that budget. So you're thinking, okay, well, there's the creation side of it. But what about that management side of it? Because I believe that was one of the parts of the question, is that management aspect. So let me flip the hat off of the city side and put my corporate hat back on. So at the bank that I work at, with me being over the e-signature program, my budget is almost double what the city's budget is. So the multi-million-dollar budget and annual spend is what I deal with on a daily basis. whether it's negotiating a contract that is for $4 million to all the way down to paying a contractor that makes $50 an hour. All in between, I'm having to do that in my daily life with work each and every day. So the $14 million budget that we have for the city is something that I have experienced day in and day out currently working with.
All right. Thank you, Brian. The next question that's been submitted, this is great. There are some in Helena that think Joe Tucker Park could be improved by limiting the waterfowl population. If you say you live in Helena, everybody stepped in geese poop, okay? And building an attractive fence between it and the cemetery next door. I mean, do you think this is something the mayor should address? You know, reducing waterfowl population, building a fence between the cemetery and the park. What do you think about that?
Yes, yes, absolutely. It needs to be addressed. Now, I say that knowing that Mayor Hall has been addressing it. So he has put that time and that effort in, but we've got to continue pushing forward because they are a protected species. So our hands as a municipality is tied to a degree on what we can and cannot do. But do I think that there are other opportunities that we need to investigate to improve not having to walk around Joe Tucker and stepping in goose poop? Let's be real and honest with it. I mean, that's what happens. Or even the fact that you have to stop your car on 52 so that they can cross the road from the church to go towards Joe Tucker Park. So, I mean, that's another traffic nightmare we get to live with. But yes, there are ways and opportunities that we need to continue to investigate in order to be able to manage that population.
I might be the guy, honestly, who sits there laying on the horn thinking it's going to do something, but they just look at you like I'm busy walking across the street.
It actually makes them go slower.
They're like, what is that? We should stop and think about it. All right, Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that also. I think we need to look at what we can do, but also, you know, be mindful that they are protected and that we need to do anything that's that we can that's as humane as possible and keep them, you know, giving them a space that they can hang out and not necessarily be on the track all the time also.
All right. Hey, another question came in. They said they're noticing more awareness of crimes or suspicious activities in our neighborhoods. And as it's kind of changing directions here, is this something that you guys are hearing about? Is it something you can help address? And, you know, if so, how?
I personally have not heard, but I'm sure it's going on. And with my background in law enforcement and public safety, that's a major concern for me, is keeping the city safe, because that keeps it desirable for people to live in and want to move to. Yeah, there are many things that can be done. We can increase patrols. We can have people submit a tip. You can do that anonymously. I know we had, where I used to work, we had an app where you could submit a tip or just let the department know that something was going on so that they could be investigated. People can put in their patrol requests and have officers come through more often. They can't get to everywhere all the time. We're limited on manpower, but if we're notified of areas that need more attention, then definitely they can be given more attention.
All right, thank you, Scott. Brian?
So I agree. I agree with what Scott just said, but I also know that Chief Fulmer does a phenomenal job with his team at the police department. He makes sure that, and everyone that works for the police department does a phenomenal job making sure that our streets stay safe in Helena. I know that Scott had mentioned that where he worked in the past, they had a place where you could go submit extra patrols and all that. But what I would like to tell the residents of Helena is you don't have to live in that other city. You can go to cityofhelena.org, which is the city's website, and click on Action Center, and you can ask and request for those extra patrols or turn tips in or to do the different things. So City of Helena has that stuff too. It's not just other cities. So we've got to make sure that that our police are actively engaged in listening to the community, but also knowing that not everybody's going to turn a tip in. So they've got to continue doing a phenomenal job like they do each and every day, being the eyes and ears for us as citizens to keep us safe.
Perfect. Thank you guys for that. One of the questions that came in, we talked just a few minutes ago about how Helena has this small town feel. And the question was asked, how do we plan to preserve that? How do we keep Helena being, the small town, hometown that we love? And do you think there's such a thing as too much commercial? What do you guys think?
Yes, too much commercial is always a possibility. It's always there. Do we want to become a Hoover? Do we want to become an Alabaster with their shopping corridor? No, we don't want that. We want the necessities and the freedoms to be able to shop how we choose to. But what you mentioned in that first part of that question is that small town feel. That's a culture. That's a culture that everybody in this community has created. So as mayor, it's my job in order to be able to not only promote that, but be involved with the community. And it's one of those that it's not when I win, I'm going to become involved with the community. It's having that phone conversation at 8 o'clock this morning with the HBA so I could talk to the local business owners. It's being able to get out at the sports, at the soccer fields and being able to watch kids play. It's being able to go up to the high school and watch a baseball game and Coach Guy do a great job with his kids over there. It's those type of things that really start to create that sense of community, because at the end of the day, it's just a culture. Nobody requires us to have or forces someone to have that it's a small town, it's got that small town. No, it's that culture. And I think that we can see growth and progressive, smart growth and still maintain that cultural aspect.
All right, thank you, Brian. Scott.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can over commercialize at some point. And I would like to see us do more to support our local businesses that we already have. Also, don't let them feel left out. A lot of people have been in business here for a long time, and they need the community support as well. As far as the hometown, small town, that is just the way it feels when you're here. So preserving that is important to me also.
All right, thank you. Another question that came in, what are you guys' thoughts on the frequent elevated E. coli levels in Buck Creek in the heart of Old Town? That's a good one.
It is, it is. Scott, you want to take this or you ready to go?
No, you go ahead, Brian.
Okay.
You guys are great.
So the thing is so the E. coli level at the dam and through Buck Creek is an issue. It's been an issue for years. But what we've got to make sure is that we're working with all of the regulations that ADM puts in place to make sure that we're producing and putting out the best water possible that is flowing into the creek. What we also have to worry about is how do we manage, or can we partner with the municipalities that are upstream from us? Because at the end of the day, we can only control so much that's right here in Helena in Buck Creek, but it's other municipalities upstream. What are they doing? Do they have best practices that maybe that we could leverage as well? So it's building that partnership with those upstream municipalities and towns to be able to make sure that Buck Creek stays safe, but then also what we can control, making sure that we're producing the best thing possible that's getting pumped back into the creek. But it is bad. I will agree with that.
All right. I hate to do this. I do not want to leave, but it is 8 o'clock and I have to make it to an appointment. But Jana May is going to take over from here and get you guys all the way to the finish line tonight. And thank you for having me. And I am excited to see what comes out of this election for both of you. Good luck to you both.
Thank you, Joseph. Jana?
Yes,
Jana
thank
May.
you so much, Joseph. We have lots of questions. And if y'all need to go, you can always respond to the comments in Facebook. Let me see where Joseph left. A comprehensive plan could include a design for addressing issues like parking and pedestrian access for the entertainment district. We could also create, I can't say this word, art on a wall, and all a mural,
Mural.
yeah, and art partnerships to create more buzz in the area.
So that was a lot.
Yeah, it's not really a question. It's more a suggestion. So thank you.
Oh, I agree. Yes.
No, I think that parking, and I know that I've had a lot of people reach out to me today, especially since we passed that last night, was parking down in Old Town. We know that that's an issue, and that's got to be addressed by the city, and we've got to be creative with doing it. Could it be a land swap with Shelby County that currently holds the land on the other side of the hill, right there on Helena, on Helena Road, or is it looking for other opportunities on 2nd Avenue or 2nd Street? So we've got to find new parking. So yes, but that was a huge statement, by the way.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say, Scott, before I move on to the next one?
No, I agree with all that.
Okay. Okay, the question every parent has: what will you, the city, do to assist in managing the growth in our already crowded schools? We may have covered that, but would you like to add to it?
Yeah, I would just say, you have to partner with Shelby County Board of Education and work with them on trying to expand the schools. And if we can come up with some, like Brian said earlier, some seed money to help offset some of those costs and maybe get that project rolling, that is something definitely needs to be done. I definitely don't like seeing all those portables out there. I like to have the kids inside a building.
Right. I'm just reading so that some may be statements. Slowing down development slows down sales tax growth potential and thus hurts our 1 cent for the schools. Smart growth is how we implement mechanisms to make the growth work our way. We can make it look and function how we want it through a comp plan. That's a statement. Right. Y'all are on point. Helena is one of the safest cities in the state. How would you help to support the police chief and police department?
Helena is fortunate enough to have one of the lowest crime rates around. We do have a fabulous police department. Spoken with Chief Fulmer on several occasions. I have no doubt that he is fully capable of running a police department and is a man of high integrity. The police and fire definitely have the support. We'll address their needs as they come up. I know we got the grant for 4 new officers recently, which is great news. So that puts Helena, we could still add a couple of more probably, but it would give us an opportunity to address immediately some more needs in the fire department, maybe giving them some more staff and upgrading some of the equipment they have that's aging rapidly.
Thank you. Brian?
So yes, safety is more than just police. Safety is all of our first responders that respond to any type of critical issue that happens in our town. I've said it earlier, and I've said it a billion times over, and we'll always say it, that Chief Fulmer does a phenomenal job. He needs to be, and me as mayor would be supporting him. He is the expert in that role. His officers are the experts in law enforcement. And it's the same way with Chief Valenti over at the fire department and the firemen. Those fire medics are the experts in handling those situations. They don't need a mayor stepping in. They need a mayor backing them and supporting them. So statistically speaking, and people always say the statistics of the FBI is, yes, we're undermanned as a police department. And that is being addressed to a degree with, we've added officers last year. We're adding 4 more officers this coming November with that grant. But then also, we've got to look at the fire department as well, as how do we make sure that we're leveraging our part-time firemen, our volunteer firefighters, as well as those full-time firefighters, to make sure that they're prepared and have enough manpower to be able to fight what they need to fight on a daily basis. So we've got to make sure that we have a true balance in there of all of our first responders. We've got to make sure that our firemen don't have uniforms that are 9 years old. We've got to make sure that our police department doesn't have to worry about a car that's going to break down. We've got to support them as a city, be able to give them the tools and resources they need to do that job each and every day.
Thank you. The city of Hoover is examining how they can implement the Cahaba Greenway, a phase of the Red Rock Ridge and Valley Trail system that provides pedestrian connectivity along the Cahaba from Hoover to Helena to Pelham to Oak Mountain State Park to Eastern Hoover.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be supportive of Helena's participation in this regional effort? What do you envision our role being?
So yes, I mean, that's already in the works. We discussed it last night during our city council work session of what still needs to be done in order to have our trail system within Helena done, where it's connecting the neighborhoods, where it's connecting Riverwoods to Hillsborough, bumping it down to Old Town, over to the sports complex. So that's already in the works. But how do we connect and make sure that that gets done without ALDOT and all of the other groups that are involved with it putting roadblocks up? We need to continue pushing that forward instead of kicking that can down the road. Pelham was recently, last month, they did their ribbon cutting on their portion of the trail. It's up to us to make sure that we're connecting in and doing our part as a city as well.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great project. Would love to see it go forward and be willing to do anything we can to help make that happen.
Thank you. Over the past 75 years, there has only been 3 full moons on Halloween. But of course, this is 2020, and the next one is this year. Thank you. How did you meet your spouses, and about your support and about the support of your families?
My wife and I started dating when we were in high school, and we've been together ever since. This year we'll be married 28 years, and without the support of my family, I wouldn't even try to undertake this. They have been very supportive and very encouraging, and you know that has kept me going through all this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with me, I met my wife here in Helena. So right here in Helena is where the love blossomed. But she is my rock. My kids are my rock. It's amazing to see a 6-year-old little girl come up to me, my daughter, and say, "Daddy, you got to keep pushing. You're doing a great job." Because there's a lot of days where I'm getting beat down with different things that are happening, whether it be in the city or in my work life. But having my kids and Ashley being able to support me, stand by my side each and every day that I wake up and all the way to when I go to bed, I couldn't ask for anything better than that.
Thank you. Thank you. Until the roads are addressed, adding all these businesses, like Brian said, we're going to cause more problems for residents. Do you have any comment to that? It's not a question, it's just a comment.
We got to be smart. We got to be smart with our roads internally. I mean, and we can't be passing the buck and kicking the can down the road with ALDOT and Shelby County. We as a city need to start stepping up and playing ball with them but then also look for opportunities that smaller projects that, I mean, the $1.2 million that the city's spending on that intersection with the new development going in. Those are things that the city needs to do and did do with this project, but we need to move forward. We've got to start looking for opportunities like that instead of just relying on, oh, it's a state road or, oh, it's a county road. No, we've got to take responsibility.
Scott, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, but building roads is very expensive, and to do it on your own, you know, it's going to take a lot of money. And if you can't really depend on AlDOT or the county to help you out, then you know it's going to be tough for the city to come up with funds to put a lot of roads down. That's my only thing on that.
Thank you. We're getting near the end. Pretty basic and fundamental questions. Why are you running for mayor? What are your reasons for wanting to lead this community?
Well, I've spent my whole adult life in public service, serving as a police officer. And when since I retired last November, I really had the yearning for public service again. It's what I do. I love the community. I love serving the public, and you know, to have an opportunity to do it here where I've lived for 20 years is a great honor. And I was encouraged by several of my family and friends and neighbors to consider it. And so after much thought, I did consider it, and it's been awesome, you know, getting out and talking to so many people, and listening to what they have to say and what they want for the city. So yeah, that's my reason, and it's just my public service background, and it's what I enjoy doing.
Thank you. Brian?
So with me, it's very similar to this, Scott, that I've got a servant's heart. That's what I love. I've got that heart and passion for not only serving the community, but more specifically serving Helena. So there's been years, 5 years ago when I started serving on the beautification board, 4 years ago when I started serving on the Helena soccer board, 6 years ago when I became the secretary of the PTO at the elementary school for that year. It's being involved in serving, but serving Helena and its residents. That's where my history is. That's where my background is. And that's what I want to continue pushing forward. So I think the secondary part of that question was, well, what do you see the future? And really what I would like to see is not only the decisions and how we manage things today, how they affect us today, but how they're going to affect our kids down the road that live in Helena, that grow up here. Because I mentioned at the beginning that I've got the 5 kids between 11 and 6. They're going to be here for a while. So the decisions and actions that we have today are going to affect them when they're graduating high school.
Thank you. I'll leave it with this last comment. Ballantrae Golf Course got a trained dog to manage the geese.
I like it. I like it.
So something, first task of the mayor
Yes.
is to get a dog to chase down those geese. So thank you. There's a lot more questions in Facebook. If y'all get a chance, I would appreciate if y'all responded to them. And
yes.
I thank y'all so much for taking time out. I know it's late and it's a school night. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jana.
You're welcome. Do y'all
always
have
a pleasure.
Say? Sorry.
I said it's always a pleasure.
Oh, I was going to deduct 5 seconds too from you. So, Helena, be safe, be healthy, and be unusual. Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you, Jana.
welcome.